always, this is our normal poll. We was in the field last week, March 22nd to 25th. We polled 600 registered voters in North Carolina. These are people who are actually registered to vote, eligible to vote. Margin of error is plus or minus 4%. It was conducted by National Research out of New Jersey. And when voting for our next president, how important is their view on health care reform to your overall decision to vote for them? And as you can see, 89% of the people said how they view health care is important, and 9% said not. You see it's 55 to 3 is very important. Health care is very much on people's minds. We've been finding that polling since the health care law started being debated. People's concentration on health care has been up there since then. Now, but which party do you believe could handle health care reform better? And you can see Republicans got 33%, Democrats 36%, neither 17%, and don't know 9%, and both 4%. And I should have explained, on the left you see, on the right side you see crosstabs. These are all different groups. And everything highlighted in yellow there is over 50%. So those are the people who think very important. You kind of see just about every group, this is a big issue to them throughout. Same thing here. These are all the ones that picked above 50% for Republicans and Democrats. As you can see, it's not huge, overwhelming numbers going either way. Then, so we know which party, but which candidate, the current major party candidate for president, who do you trust most to make the right decisions about the future of health care? Barack Obama, 40%, Mitt Romney, 11%, Rick Santorum, 13%, Newt Gingrich, 7%, Ron Paul, 6%, none, 15%, don't know, 7%. It's really not as bad as it looks when you look at the Obama versus everything else. The Republicans add up to about 36, 37%. So it's 40 to 30, all within the margin of error. The parties are pretty evenly split. Now the Republicans are across the board on which Republican candidate, but interesting. Of the following, which do you think is most likely to happen when thinking about Obamacare's constitutionality being upheld? And as you can see, Obama's the first one on the left, 24%, Obama's constitutionality will be completely upheld. So about a quarter of the voters think that. The individual mandate will fail, but the rest will be upheld. 26% think that. So another quarter think that the mandate will fail, but the rest will go into effect. So Obamacare will be declared unconstitutional. A third of the voters, 33% thinks so. And then 16% don't know. So, and then over here on the right, you can again, this is the ones that were above 40 in any particular region for upheld. Liberals and blacks think it'll be upheld on the whole thing being declared unconstitutional. People with a 2-year college degree and Republicans are the only ones who think the whole thing will go down over 40%. The rest are kind of where the overall polling is. But now, if it does fail, if the court allows Obamacare to be implemented in full, what do you think will this eventually lead to a single-payer system where the government is the only health care provider like in Canada? Yes, 47%, no, 39%. And again, you can see on the right, the yellows, those are people who are over 50%. And the only people who don't seem to think it'll lead to a single-payer are postgraduates, liberals, and blacks, which is interesting. As you may know, Obamacare includes provision that will require all Americans who do not have health insurance to purchase it. If they choose to not get health insurance, they will incur a penalty. Do you support or oppose that position? 64 to 29 there. Oppose it with 50 to 17 being very strongly. And as you can see, just about every single group is over 50% of that in terms of opposing that. The only ones who support that provision are the 20% of the people who self-identify as liberal, and that's at 52%. That's always been the great point in terms of the individual mandate, is what's big in terms of people's opinions. Do you think your family will be better off or worse off under the health reform law? Better off 32%, worse off 44%, about the same 13, don't know 11. And again on the right, you can see the only people, again, who think that they will be better off are the liberals and black voters. And on the worse off, you can see the different groups. One's a region, Charlotte. Young people, interesting, think they'll be worse off. 26 to 40 think that they will be worse off by this. Two-year college, again, the two-year college people break out a lot different throughout the polling in this. To the extent possible, do you think decisions about an individual's health care and how they pay for health care should be determined by? And you can see the individual, 69%. The federal level, 15%, state level, 9%, don't know, 7%. A strong opinion that individuals should, determine their own health care. And in this time, instead of yellow, it was under the people who came in under 60% are highlighted in the light brown, and that was Democrats feel, or 57% think the individual, liberals 54% the individuals, moderate 59%, and black 51%. So they still believe, majority-wise, that it should be the individual, just not as strongly as the overall other groups. With regards to Medicaid and your overall understanding of the program, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of the program? 57% to 28% have a favorable view of it. And again, the favorable highlighted the people that came in under 50%. Again, young people, 46 to 40, only 44%, and Republicans, only 44% of those had a favorable view. And we have the same thing about Medicare. With regards to Medicare and your overall understanding of the program, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of the program? 70% have a favorable, but 20% unfavorable. And there was only one group that broke under 60 or under 60%. That was, again, 26 to 40-year-olds are at 52%. So not quite as strongly in support of the program as older people. Do you think the government should provide free health care? The word that's cut off there is health care. Free health care. Yes, 34%. No, 59%. And on the right, everybody above, actually I messed up once there. Everybody above 50 is highlighted, except I highlighted Democrats should be not highlighted. And on the yes, only liberals and blacks above 50% in terms of thinking it should be highlighted. Again, these are registered voters, likely voters in 2012 who were answering these questions.
It's free.
Okay, long question here. State legislatures have authored legislation to create a health benefit exchange as required by the federal health care legislation, also known as Obamacare. Do you think legislators should act now or wait until the constitutionality of the federal health law has been determined before creating or spending money on a state level health benefits exchange? As you can see, wait, 63%, act now, 25%, 11% don't know. And the only groups that were under 50 for wait, again, were liberals and black voters. Those are only two groups. We asked these questions not in the order you see up here because there were other questions in this poll, so it didn't go in the order you see. I arranged those for terms of the presentation. So it wasn't like we asked those questions and then asked the next one. They were asked in appropriate order. We also do the polling using live callers. This is not an interactive voice response poll with computers. It's live people calling and asking questions. And that's pretty much it. You can always see our polling at nccivitas.org and those are out at the site. Any quick questions before I turn this over? Not too long.
The correlation between the blacks and liberals, how much crossover between those two groups was there in this study group?
There's not as much as you would think. You got to remember, black voters are very much in support of President Obama. So to the extent that President Obama says he wants something, a lot of black voters express support for it. It's not some big mystery. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeanette Dorn, who's the Executive Director of the North Carolina Institute for Constitutional Law.